Imagine you woke up one day and the internet was completely shut down. No access to social media, no internet, and no access to information. Sounds extreme? Well, it has happened before and it could happen again. In Uganda, we have seen internet shutdowns during the most critical times of the 2021 general election, where social media platforms were blocked for days. And just last year, the government of Uganda imposed a controversial social media bill whereby Ugandans have to pay a fee to access any social media platforms. But what does this mean for our digital freedom? Welcome to Afro Liberty Talks, where we dissect the most pressing issues affecting freedom, liberty, in the context of a free society in Africa. My name is George Kanyehamba, and I'm your host. We are diving into a topic which is internet shutdowns and social media attacks. Are we losing digital freedom? Joining us today are two experts. Rutemba Benedicto, the Vice President of the Revolutionary People's Party, RPP, and an aspiring Member of Parliament for Chinkizi East in the 2026 general election. Another one is Counsel Ronald Katushabe, an activist of justice, liberty, and freedom in Uganda. He is also an advocate of the High Court in Uganda. Gentlemen, welcome to Afro Liberty Talks.
Thank you so much, Afro Liberty Talks.
You are hosting us. Let's start by breaking it down. Benedict, when we talk about digital freedom, what do we really mean? Is it a right or it is just a privilege in the African context today?
Thank you very much, Kanyehamba. First and foremost, all freedom has never been a liberty, has never been free for people. That it is mandatory for one person to dictate. So all people are free. So all freedom is freedom. Whether it is media freedom, whether it is freedom of speech, freedom of expression, all freedom is freedom. So when you ask about the media freedom, it is freedom. And by what we mean that something is free, or it is freedom of some individuals, it means that this is a right that is inherent to all people in the same manner. So as we are today in Africa, it is still freedom, and it is still a fundamental human right and a freedom of all people. Whether we get it, whether we don't get it, is another question altogether, but it remains freedom. So in Africa today, you may think that why are we talking about freedom? Why are we asking ourselves that is it freedom or not freedom? Are all people at liberty to enjoy the freedoms, to enjoy the rights, the social media rights and everything? Yes, all people are supposed, in the right society, are supposed to be enjoying the same freedom of liberty, of communication. So when we talk of as Africa as we are today, it simply means that we already have a problem. That's why we ask questions. In philosophy, people normally say, why do people ask questions? They ask questions when there is already a problem. Now that you ask me whether there is whether is it media freedom, whether is it freedom, it means in Africa as we stand today, there is that pending problem where the rights and freedoms of individuals are being trampled upon, either by particular individuals or by the governments that are in power.
Okay, so he has given us the general context of Africa and how rights are being abused and the freedoms of access to information currently. So I want to go to Ronald. Ronald, from a legal perspective, what does international law say about digital freedom? Are African governments actually justified when they shut down the internet?
Okay, thank you so much. It being Uganda is a subject to the international laws, where we talk about the United Nations Charter, Universal Declaration of Human Rights 1948, and most especially look at the segments, look at the conventions and several treaties that have been held in implementation of the same. We look at the International Convention on Civil and Political Rights, which specifically under it, and that's under Article 19, grants that people shall have freedom to access press and have information shared thereunto, by them sharing and them accessing the same information as well. So it's a binding act. It is binding on all states, and it should be the same is domesticated in our own laws here. The same is domesticated in our Constitution of the Republic of Uganda under Article 41, whereby people have that freedom and the right to access information. The same is established under Article 21, under Article 29, Clause 1, Paragraph A of our Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, saying that people have that freedom of expression and freedom of choice to exercise press in their own manner. So when these countries or our nation comes in to say it's shutting down social media, it is actually abusing the international laws, and it is actually abusing the rule of law in whatever mode of conduct they tend to handle it, because these are setups. So them being there set in these kind of laws, it makes it as a mandate. It being a mandate, this turns to be rights, that people have freedom to press, people have freedom of expression, people have freedom of assembly by the same international law setup and domesticated in our own constitution here of the Republic of Uganda.
Okay, so both Benedict tried to show us what the problem is currently in Africa, especially when it comes to the issue of social media shutdown. And Katushabe Ronald, an advocate of the High Court, tried to give us the legal perspective of this matter and how it is enshrined in the international legal documents to which Uganda is part and parcel. And also he has tried to give us the legal perspective locally, in the local context of Uganda, where in the constitution talks about the right and freedoms of access to information. Now let's get real. Internet shutdowns, social media taxes, government surveillance, these are becoming a norm today in Uganda. Benedict, why are African governments increasingly restricting internet access? What are they afraid of?
Thank you very much, George. First of all, I want to make one add-on that when we talk about digital freedom and media freedom, digital freedom is actually imbued within the media freedom. So when we talk of digital freedom, I do not want the viewer to be like it is separate. It is just part of the general media freedom and the right to information, as Counsel has rightfully said. Now, back to your question. Why do African governments fear too much to the extent that they have to shut down and crack down on everybody that is rightfully saying something? Like, for example, we have seen in our current by-election in Kawempe, we saw some JAT people and the government cracking down, the security forces cracking down really hard on the media. Now, they are cracking hard on the media while trampling upon the digital rights of individuals, to the extent that some people are being picked up for what they post, for what they say on social media. That simply means that what the governments in Africa are doing. And I don't want us to limit ourselves that this is only taking place here in Uganda. Because if you go to Kenya, if you go to Nigeria, if you go to all these African countries, you find it is the same story. That the governments in power, mostly those governments which have overstayed in power, have a tendency of shutting down the media, of cracking down on the media, of making sure that the people do not express themselves freely. And that's where your answer is. Your answer comes in the fact that these people who are in power for so long have done a lot of things that are not, in other words, worthy of leadership, that now they are trying to hide. So the media, being the fourth estate, is always the one in charge of exposing whatever evils are being done. So what it simply means in Africa today, when we see a lot of crackdown, it means that the governments in power in these particular individual countries have done a lot of things that they would not want otherwise exposed. So when you see a country that cracks down on media, beats up journalists, holds down everybody who holds the camera, holds them in prison, those countries, it means they have a lot that they are actually hiding. They have trampled upon human rights. They have broken a lot of laws that they would not want the fourth estate to expose. So that's why it becomes a right for any individual out there to say, it's my right to share information, to know, to expose.
One of the reasons or the different reasons that the government normally offers, for example, in the case of charging every Ugandan a tax, a social media tax on a daily basis, they mention of getting the revenue. Ronald, do you think these shutdowns are legal, and do you think citizens have the power to challenge them?
I automatically tell you they are illegal ab initio. Illegal ab initio meaning from the start they are illegal, and those shutdowns, and government has gotten no at all any justification of having these shutdowns. Why? If you look at the taxes, the overwhelming taxes, say the OTT, over the top tax, specifically set on the social media, it comes in as a way of, it denies a lot of things. One, we see the right of being denied to business comes in. Why? That there is online business. We are dealing with the Gen Z, the young people, who are so much dealing in business online. They cannot afford rent. So they have their own products. Say someone will have clothes in their homes and they are selling via the social media. So you're entirely blocking them. Instead of them, if you would actually reduce taxes for these people, or even not remove these taxes, allow these people to trade freely, it would actually help the state to gain more revenues, to gain more from these people, reduce crimes in Uganda, and the rate of unemployment would also be cut down. But when you turn up to set up taxes and you're trying to shut down the social media, you're instead creating more problems. Two, it also creates issues of lack of accountability. You're trying to limit that there is no transparency and accountability, whereby we know that much enforceable in our nation, the judiciary is not independent. It being not independent, people should use the social media, should use online to put the judiciary on task, that whatever you're going to decide, it's in the hands of the people. Because when the social media, when press is monopolized by state, it will give its own opinions, which are manipulative in nature. But when it's left in the hands of the public, it puts judiciary at task to make sure that things should be done in a transparent and accountable way. And that's how people can access them. There's a way around. We have seen here in Uganda, we have what we have called the Agora. I think it's headed by Agasat Haile. They have been so much in putting task, mobilizing people to hold on activism, to do marches which are entirely curbing issues like corruption. We had the march to Parliament. The mobilization was done all over social media. We have the challenging and where people have tasked and questioned the ongoing abductions all over East Africa. It is done in collaboration with the global network of online and social media. So it is actually very illegal when you try to say that you are trying to set up these taxes and to shut down. You're entirely limiting your nation from developing. You're entirely limiting, showing up that you don't want people to exercise their political freedom, their economic freedom under Article 40 of your constitution. So it means you just have a document, but the implementation is actually not there.
Okay. So I wanted to add something. The way Counsel is explaining it, when we talk about that question you asked, I find it very misleading when people start lying to Ugandans and normally all Africans that they are putting tax, levying the social media because they are generating the revenue. The economists have said it categorically. First of all, as RPP, when we have been doing our research, we found out that Uganda, around 3 million Ugandans, only 3 million Ugandans around that line do pay taxes, are the ones who are in the tax bracket. Why? So if you say these Ugandans, you leave them alone, and then you say, instead of finding better strategies of increasing revenue, you only tell us that you are going to follow a certain student who is trying to establish his small business and task him. There's a young man I talked to. He told me he no longer uses social media, Facebook and the rest. Why? Because of the taxes which are there. So it is a lie, George. It is a lie to say that you are taxing the people on social media and putting these digital taxes in a bid to generate revenue. There are other strategies that a country like Uganda would do to increase our tax base, so that the revenue that they are targeting is actually generated. So I think what Counsel Ronald says is true, that it is not only illegal, it is also false. It's a lie, and it's one of the punitive measures of controlling the people, so that you do not access the information.
Okay, so the government also, I think it's when you look at some of the reason as to why the government was able to introduce a tax, what they were saying, the authorities, that Ugandans will spend a lot of time on social media. And in the words of the president of Uganda, that there is too much rugambo, that's the correct statement, on the media. And so Ugandans don't want to work, so they spend most of the time on social media, and also they sometimes end up spreading false information. So as a lawyer, where do we draw the line between the freedom of speech, we are speaking, sharing everything, we have the freedom, and then the spread of false information? Because we can also look at the social media bill that was introduced by the Honorable Member of Parliament for Kampala, the Mohammadi. So where do you as a lawyer think we should draw that line?
You see, when you talk about like my brother Benedict has said, that it's false information. The international conventions and communities set a warning, say you can say you are going to shut down the media, you are going to censor the press for a cause of security, on concerns of security, and you should be all on issues of privacy, and it should not at all affect, it should not at all affect someone's kind of liberty and interest. So now the consideration is, we look at what we call proportionality and necessity. That now, is it justifiable for what you're doing? Now, if you say, because you have heard, you see, you have not done due diligence and assessed, You have not come up with several reports from various areas that people spend their time on social media. Eh? You have not assessed those ones who are gaining from it. Let us look at scenarios when social media or Facebook was swiftly shut down and people resorted to use of VPN. We are heading towards the period of elections, and you recall the violence that surfaced and the abuse of human rights by then, which were always reported by the social media. They did not stop on that. They had to make sure that Google, everything was totally shut down, specifically to make sure that the information is not shared out for people to know what is going on. Now, this didn't stop. They have gone ahead to formulate or establish the certain law you are talking about, an act, the Computer Misuse Amendment Act 2022. When you look at it, under that is section 26 C, subsection 1 and 2, where it is talking about malicious information. We have had activists who were there on the forefront, who just published on their social media platforms, WhatsApp and Facebook, and said, the iron sheet thieves of Karamoja. Now, you take such a person to prison, you have the person remanded to prison for whatever they have acted out, and there is evidence already ongoing in public that iron sheets are missing. They were kept by these people. They are also not truly denying the same. So you're creating this saying, giving an excuse of saying, you know, we are shutting down social media because people are wasting time on social media. Yet actually it is social media which is helping to curb corruption, to ensure transparency and accountability, helping people to economically grow up, strengthen up themselves. George, things are not or how they used to be in the previous. Our parents would grow up and they are given a piece of land where to start from. They would swiftly go for marriage and have the same. This no longer happens. A young person is finishing university, they have nowhere to start from, they can't go back at home, they don't want to see them, they are the sole breadwinners of their homes, they need to maintain these people. They cannot afford the rent. The only remedy they can deal on is online business and social media to trade whatever they are doing. If they are good at freedom of expression, they do that. If they are good at online business, they do that. The excuses given by the head of state are actually not real, and they cannot be relied on.
Okay, we've heard enough about the problem. Let's talk about the solutions. Benedict, how can young people in Uganda and Africa as a whole protect their digital rights, and what tools do you think they can, tools or platforms that they can actually use?
Thank you very much. Number one, they must use social media. How? They must devise means that they are going to survive within the crackdown. And that's what makes this a revolutionary generation. That whatever means, whatever problems, challenges they strike at them, at the young people, then the young people must create, because the young people of every generation are always faced with their generational problems. And these generational problems are solved by them. So what I would encourage the young people to do is not to say, oh, the government has cracked on us, has shut down the internet, now they are beating the journalists, we don't join the journalism. They should come out and actually say, yesterday they were beating the journalists, now today we are here on Afro Liberty Talks. That is the way to go, that when they shut this one, you devise another means of going. Because at the end of the day, we cannot afford to sit back. That's why we are saying that, number one, whether they do what, as young people, mostly Ugandans, we must wake up and actually know that if they shut Facebook.
Are you sending them to fight with
No. Don't put that word in my mouth. I know you, the journalists, what you do. What we are saying is, when they shut down Facebook, there are these coders, there are these ICT specialists, technicians who are specialists in that. If they shut down this, create another platform that the people will use. If they do this, create this one that people will use. At the end of the day, the struggle is not for those who can say, let me sit down and I wait for the solution. The solution is to be created. And now, when it comes to issues like social media and the freedom of speech, freedom of expression, communication, the freedom right to information, these are things which go hand in hand with the political status, or the political state of the nation. For example, I want to give you a brief history. We have now the Ministry of ICT Information and what, something like that. I don't know the ministries of Uganda very well by intent, because there are very many, I can't cram them. Now, initially, in the World War I, World War II, the Ministry of Information used to be called the Minister of Propaganda. Now we have harmonized the propaganda and dressed it very well. So what the young people ought to do today is to realize that if we have a whole ministry whose job is to dress the propaganda of a nation, of the leaders, and make it a palatable, make them acceptable policies to the people. Yet we know that these are policies which are actually dehumanizing and harming to the people. The young people, this is the solution I first of all tell people. Wake up wherever you are, create something. Number two, join the other groups of other people who are doing the same, because you cannot build alone. You cannot do something alone. If you hear that those of Benedict and what, there is a party called Revolutionary People's Party. If you feel you can join together, you find the solution. If you feel you can do it within this NRM, within NUP, go somewhere. What I would advise the young people, we are all like grasshoppers, which are in the same basket. The solution is to stop eating ourselves. You start biting your fellow, you start biting this one instead of biting maybe the sack and find a way out. So what I would advise the young people in the middle of this crackdown, the middle of these challenges, where you are, find the other people you can work with to devise the solutions and work within. Join other groups. Join groups and parties and organizations, because this problem, George, I want to emphasize, is not merely legal problem. It's a political problem. And at the end of the day, it needs the political solutions to come on table and know that if we have one incumbent, the incumbent who does not wish other people to express, because when you see these violations are not general, they are selective. If you are speaking for somebody, you have seen some group of bloggers running across the countries, blogging and showing things what they think the government has done better. But you do that and show the things the government has not done better, you will know what I'm talking about. So what I'm simply saying, the young people, wherever they are, join others and then work.
So, Leonard, yes. Benedicto has shared with us. He has shared with us some of the avenues that we can actually use to defend the freedom of press and social media access. So, for you, in your own view as a lawyer, do you think we need new policies, or it is about enforcing the existing ones better? How can people hold their governments accountable?
George, it comes into about three categories. Not saying that do we only need the new policies or enforcing. One, we need the new policies on protecting the online users. One, the right to privacy, as enshrined in our grand norm, the Constitution. The right to privacy when you are using that online what and what. You remember some time back, the UCC was trying to see that they have full accounts, details of all people who are using social media and all stuff. The same thing is already working in China already. They do digital face recognition, everything, they know your details already. There is need, if it extends the system, it turns to be discrimination. So you need policies for protection, that liberal way of your privacy. Two, now when it comes to our role, what do we also have to do? Oppose those laws that are there, that are actually in the system or in the root of censoring press. One, you can start with the Computer Misuse Amendment Act 2022. That its establishment is entirely there to censor the press. The duty of us is to oppose such kind of laws and demand and protect those kind of laws that are in a position to ensure that we have access to information. Ensure there is protection for those international laws, like I said, under Article 19 of the International Convention on Civil and Political Rights, Article 21 of the same convention on the freedom of assembly, Article 41, the right to access information of our constitution here of the Republic of Uganda, and Article 29, 1. So that our mandate to come in, because there is always a call in that constitution. They say, if you feel the constitution is being abused, you as citizen, we have a burden to come and join together and defend the constitution. Two, work together globally. Work with Kenya, work with Tanzania, work with these countries globally to make sure that there is demand or protection for these kind of laws that ensure us to have access to the social media, to the online and everything, so that we are not hampered or denied for the same. Another thing is do digital sensitization. This can be not only within here, because there is a challenge, it's within towns and urban areas, like I can say. But there are those people in the villages to sensitize them the importance of the digital era, in terms of doing businesses, in terms of expressing their challenges, in terms of demanding for justice, in terms of everything they do stand for. So there is also that burden that has to be conducted and implemented by the entire people and continued advocacy as well. Then the last thing I can say, also learning to use protective measures like apps or end-to-end message apps. Like if you use Signal, you use Telegram in terms of your communication for protection, because censoring will always come in as long as the government is looking at a tyrannic war of operation. So the war of dealing with this is also going by those means. That's what I can simply say.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for sharing your perspective in this Afro Liberty Talks program. And now it goes back to you, our viewers. What do you think? Should digital freedom be a human right? Have you ever been affected by any internet shutdown? Drop your thoughts in the comment section. And of course, don't forget to share this episode to others using the hashtag Afro Liberty Talks, because the conversation on freedom should never be silenced. I remain George Justice Kanyehamba, your host of the Afro Liberty Talks, hosted by African Justice Media. See you in the next episode. I can't wait to see you. Thank you.